Hi again, folks. If you are not so into the bullet journaling technique, we've got another technique that should have another starting paragraph with an exclamation point at the end to lure you in, to draw you in, to make you excited. But we don't have that. We just can tell you about it. We've got another way to stay organized.
That's right. I think we've already sold the concept that this is an interesting way. These are interesting ways to stay organized, especially for people who kind of find themselves doing random things on their to-do lists. And yesterday, yes, we had the probably more traditional and more widely known bullet points. You can organize things by writing them down, use different symbols to show if they're important or what types of events and activities you're remembering. So that's pretty good. It makes a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people do use it very effectively. But today we have Cornell Notes.
Dun, dun, dun.
That sounds pretty exciting, and I'm guessing it's named after the famous Cornell University
Seems
in
to be a good guess.
New York.
Ithaca, New York. Yeah.
It's one of. Is it an Ivy League school?
I think it is an Ivy League school. I know that mine Joe went there, and I also know that I've gone to visit there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you drive out there, I think Lee Dong-hui might have as well.
Oh, wow.
But as you drive out there and you get there, you're like, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and there's going to be a lot of snow, and I don't know if I like this so much, but it is very beautiful. It's a pretty campus.
Maybe because it's so isolated, that led a lot of the students there to have extra free time, so they came up with Cornell Notes, a very efficient way of organizing your lives. If you can't get off the university campus to have fun on the weekend, why not make a new note-taking system for yourself? It certainly will pass the time. So let's stay organized with some other note-taking techniques, specifically the Cornell Notes technique, which we will learn about right now.
Just first, let's take a listen to the whole story one time. Now, let's talk about a method that'll revolutionize how you take notes in class. Cornell Notes, developed by Walter Pauck at Cornell University, are designed to help you actively engage with the material and remember it better. To implement the Cornell method, start by dividing your paper into 3 distinct sections: a narrow left column, a wide right column, and a summary space at the bottom. During class, write your main notes in the right column. After class, use the left column to write questions or key words related to your notes. In the bottom section, summarize the main ideas in your own words. When it's time to study, cover the right column and try to answer the questions in the left column. The Cornell method offers several advantages, such as encouraging active listening during lectures. The cue column and summary section facilitate quick and efficient review, making it easy to revisit the material. Additionally, summarizing information aids in understanding and retaining knowledge, which ultimately improves comprehension. Cornell Notes are fantastic for any subject where you need to remember and understand lots of information. They're particularly useful for classes with lots of lectures or reading assignments. Now that you know about bullet journaling and Cornell Notes, it's time to give them a try. Remember, the best note-taking method is the one that works for you. Feel free to mix and match these techniques or adapt them to fit your style. So seize a notebook, pick up that pen, and start experimenting. Your self-discipline and academic success will flourish. So here's the right now. We're here, and it even starts with a now. Now, let's talk about a method that will revolutionize. Okay, we're back to the advertising part of it. Revolutionize how you take notes in class. If you revolutionize something, you change it completely from what it was, and you make it even better, and you make it amazing. So if you're trying to revolutionize the government, might turn into something a little bit dangerous, but if you're revolutionizing a method, like we're going to revolutionize how you peel potatoes with our new handy-dandy automatic potato peeler. That means you go from something that was the standard method that was there before, and you completely change it and just make it so much better. You revolutionize it. You almost have to say it with excitement. Revolutionize, because you get excited about it. Cornell Notes, developed by Walter Pauck at Cornell University, are designed to help you actively engage with the material and remember it better. I don't know about you, but when I see that it's called Cornell Notes, I wonder if Walter Pock was working at Cornell University and had to give the rights to his notes or had to give the title of his notes to the university because he basically created it during his job. That can happen sometimes, right? Because your company that you work for has the rights to any inventions a lot of times that you create when you're working for them. So, maybe he liked the name Cornell Notes, or maybe he was working there and had to call it Cornell Notes. We don't know, but we do know it's going to revolutionize your note-taking ability. It's going to help you actively engage, actively take part in the material and learn it better, remember it better.
I think maybe just POC notes just didn't sound as good.
That's probably what it was.
Could have been that.
POC spots.
I want to teach you about my POC notes. And you're like, whoa, why are you spitting all over me? He called them Cornell notes. Ooh, now everyone said, of course you would call them Oxford or Cambridge notes if you worked there. Yeah, why not? But there you go. That's a very good question. But these are whatever they're called. They're designed to help you actively engage with material and remember it better. And after all, that is what you are taking notes for in school, right? To understand the material, to engage with the material, to remember it better, and of course, the ultimate goal, to be able to explain it or write about it or answer questions about it at exam time. So exactly how you do it? Well, it says to implement or to do or use the Cornell method, start by dividing your paper into 3 distinct sections. So you're going to use just a pen or a pencil to make some boxes, some different areas on your piece of paper, but they should be clearly marked as being different areas. That's why using a nice thick line or a dark pencil or something would be good because they're distinct. If something is distinct, it is clearly noticeably different than other things. All right, we use red, yellow, and green in our traffic lights because they're very distinct colors, right? They're not similar. If you used light blue, medium blue, and dark blue for stop, slow down, and go, we would probably have a lot of accidents because, I thought it was medium blue, but it was light blue. So they use distinct colors, all right? Something that is very noticeably different from anything around it is very distinct. So what we're doing here is we're making these 3 sections. What kind of sections are we looking at on the paper? A narrow left column, so the area or the little box that you're making on the left isn't very wide. It's kind of thin or narrow. A wide right column, and I imagine that's where you'll do most of your writing. So the right part of your paper might take up actually like 80% of the paper's surface area because it's quite wide. And a summary space at the bottom, but save a little space down at the bottom for a longer, narrower section that kind of stretches from left to right, but only in the bottom 10% of your page or something like that. So this is what you're looking at, a narrow column on the left, a wider, bigger column that's the most of the paper on the right, and down at the bottom, a strip. This is your summary space to kind of wrap up your conclusions, to write down your conclusions, I should say. During class, write your main notes in the right column. So that right column is kind of your class time work area. It's big because you don't know how many notes you'll take, but it should be big enough for you to write down all of the important information and facts and other things that your teacher taught you and you should remember from that class. After class, use the left column, that's the narrow one on the left, to write questions or key words related to your notes, things that are very important or things you can use to sort of poke your brain to ask yourself questions after you've studied the notes, after the class. This is good sort of, just to kickstart your brain a little bit and help you remember and think about the important ideas. And then in the bottom section, summarize the main ideas in your own words. So take all of the things that you've learned and all the important information you need to remember and boil that down to a few key sentences with all the key ideas stated very clearly, very plainly, and very simply. That is what it is to summarize something. So I could listen to a long 10-minute speech by a politician, and instead of writing down every single word that the politician said, if I'm a news reporter, I will boil that down. Basically, I will take all of those words and just give you the main ideas, the main topic, the most important concepts. That's what news reporters do. They'll take news and then they'll summarize it so I can get the big picture of the story, understand the main ideas of the story by only reading, 2 paragraphs or something like that. And so once you've done that on your during class and after class, maybe that day, go home and do all of this stuff. How can you use these notes organized this way later on at exam time?
Well, that's something we definitely want to know. When it's time to study, what do? You cover the right column. So the one where you put that 80% of information, all of your details, all the important stuff you heard during your seminar or whatever. And you try to answer the questions in the left column.
Interesting.
So you've created these questions after and based on the stuff you have on the right side. And you try to answer these questions that you have in the left column to see if you actually took in all that information you wrote down. That has a lot of advantages, and that's something we're going to look at in just a second. But first, let's take a little pause and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是12月27号 Unit 14 Stay organized with these note-taking techniques. 这是第2天的课程内容。这个单元在介绍的是2套笔记方法。第1天课程内容我们已经学了第1套子弹笔记法。第2天要介绍的是康奈尔笔记法，特别适合有大量资讯需要消化吸收的人。那这套笔记法有个特点，就是在笔记上我们会看到明显有所区隔的3个栏位。好，那我们一起来看学习重点吧。请看到第1段的第1个句子。Now let's talk about a method that will revolutionize how you take notes in class. Revolutionize 请同学画起来，这跟名词 revolution 革命有关。不过呢，既然是动词，我们把它理解成彻底改变、颠覆，这样就可以了。好，那请看到第2个句子，要介绍的呢就是 Cornell Notes 康奈尔笔记法到底谁发明的？原来啊是 Walter Park 他所发明的。那这设计来要做什么的呢？ To help you actively engage with the material and remember it better. 好，一般而言，我们说 engage with 的时候呢，其实是想要去跟他们做一些互动 engage with your audience, 对吧？那这里呢，我们把它理解成什么？就是这套笔记法是帮助我们把材料融会贯通的，等于你是采取比较主动的角色。好，那再来我们往后看到第2段的第1个句子 To implement the Cornell method. 好，请同学特别注意的是词语搭配，要执行这套方法。Implement 就是执行、实施的意思。好，一开始该怎么做呢？ Start by dividing your paper into 3 distinct sections. 那就是整张这个纸的空间上面要分成3块 3 distinct sections 有所区别的这3块。那再来第2个句子，上课的时候呢，那你会把主要的笔记记在右边这个栏位。After class, use the left column to write questions or keywords. 那当然呢，下课以后，针对你右边所记下来这些笔记你会在左边这一栏写下，你有没有相关的问题？或者这里到底有没有什么关键字？上课笔记的内容里面到底有没有什么关键字？你可以把它记录在左边这一栏。那还有一个栏位，就是在最底下，要做什么呢？ Summarize the main ideas in your own words. 要用自己的话去把呢你的学习摘要记下来。 Summarize 那就是做摘要。
All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. So once again, as we were saying, covering up that right column and figuring out, if you can answer the questions in your left column, that has a lot of advantages for you. Or actually, the whole method, the Cornell method, offers several advantages, such as encouraging active listening during lectures. Active listening means your brain's switched on, your ears are turned on, you're listening, your eyes are looking at the teacher, you're listening to the teacher, you're following the concepts the teacher's trying to get you to understand, and you are actively doing that, not passively. Passively doing that would probably mean you've turned on your AI app that's going to write down all the notes for you and create note cards for you. This might work for you too. It works for some folks, as long as your teacher also allows that. However, AI turning into text sometimes can be pretty messy, and you might be like, why are we talking about birds instead of bones? I don't understand. So it might get really a different content than what you would actually hear if you were using your active listening. The cue column and summary section facilitate quick and efficient review, making it easy to revisit the material. Now, we haven't given names to the different sections really that much. We've just talked about what they do. But just to let you know, the cue column is that narrow left column where you're putting the questions and maybe some of the key vocabulary that you might want to know. And I guess cue here means it's going to cue you. It's going to turn you on, switch you on, cause you to start thinking about the topic because you've got these questions that are going to cue you. Somebody who is a reporter sitting in front of a television set and about to go on air, the person who's going to turn on the camera might do a little finger gesture to you, and that will cue you to let you know that you are now on air and it's time for you to talk. Sometimes when Mike and I are doing these discussions, sometimes we might cue one another. A lot of times we use verbal cues where we will go down in our sentence and we will stop what we were talking about, or we'll make a verbal cue where we kind of lead into the next sentence to hint that we know where the thing's going next, where the other person can pick up and follow along. And that's also a cue. There's often verbal cues in conversation that should tell you when somebody's trying to get you to shut up or when somebody's interested in you or not. Here, our cue column is telling us, what we need to do. It's going to help make things easier. The cue column and the summary section facilitate, make something easier, make something simpler, and it facilitates quick and efficient review. So you can quickly and efficiently go over the stuff. Instead of needing to look at all that 80% of material you wrote before, you have a concise, kind of simple roundup of the important stuff from that 80% stuff, and you can just look at that and look at it a lot quicker so you don't waste time. And it makes it easy to revisit the material so you can go back there again. And again, instead of spending an hour on one page trying to memorize everything on the page, you just look at those cue questions, those key words, and you look at the summary, and that's facilitating your whole process for review.
So it sounds like a very, very efficient way of kind of organizing your note-taking and saving you a lot of time and frustration by trying to figure out your notes. It says additionally, so there's more good benefits to recommend this Cornell note-taking method. Additionally, summarizing information aids in understanding and retaining knowledge. If you can explain to me in a few sentences all the important things that the professor explained to you in a 1-hour class, then clearly you understand and you have retained this knowledge. You get what they said, you understand it, and you have been able to remember it. To retain, when we talk about knowledge in our minds and memory, is basically to remember things. If you retain knowledge, you learn stuff and it stays in your brain. It just doesn't kind of go through your brain or stick there for an hour until you do the exam. But then the next week you're like, oh, I forget everything that was on that exam. Because that's not really learning. That's just, being able to kind of copy what you're told for a few moments. And not really having it stick or not having it have it retained or held on to in your mind. So retaining knowledge is like remembering facts and figures. And ultimately, that being able to understand and retain knowledge, that ultimately improves comprehension. If you're able to explain what you've learned and remember what you've learned, then in the end, or ultimately, at the end of the day, when we really get down to the important stuff or what we're actually trying to do, then ultimately this improves comprehension, and comprehension is just a fancy word for understanding. If I talk to you in a language that you can speak, then you will have a high level of comprehension. You will understand. Well, then you have no comprehension. So yes, if you understand something, if it makes sense to you, if you're able to organize it and put it into your brain, then you have some level of comprehension. And yeah, with languages, the more you know, the better you get at the language, the more comprehension you will be able to have. And of course, this can also mean, this can also work with understanding scientific concepts or economic concepts. In other words, the things that you learn in university classes of all shapes, styles, and types. So that's the kind of thing we're going for, and apparently these Cornell notes are a good way of reaching that goal. It says Cornell notes are fantastic for any subject where you need to remember and understand lots of information. So it's not just for things you might expect, like history class where you might have to remember a lot of dates and names and events and things. You can also use this in chemistry class. You could use this in a cooking class. You could use it in almost any type of educational environment, not just in your traditional university type learning situation. But it says they're particularly used for classes with lots of lectures or reading assignments. So that more liberal arts, studying English or geography, history, as I mentioned, philosophy, things like that, as opposed to maybe some of the hard sciences where you'll be doing more experiments and whatnot. But for things where they're basically throwing a lot of information at you very quickly in class, and it's your job to kind of process it and boil it down to understand it, this method is very, very useful. It's kind of built in. It's got the studying and the testing part, and also the part where you write the summary that shows you really understand it, and you can explain it all yourself.
Okay, guys, and this last paragraph is kind of like going back to the cheerleading or the salesman kind of talk in the beginning. We've got exclamation points again. We're starting to talk to the readers directly. It's kind of a fun paragraph. So now that you know about bullet journaling and Cornell notes, it's time to give them a try. So it's time to get out there and try something, right? Try these note-taking methods. And the little reminder here, remember the best note-taking method is the one that works for you. So you kind of feel like someone's trying to sell you on this whole idea. It's fun. It's a fun way to write. We like to write this way sometimes just to kind of add energy to writing. So it doesn't feel like you're always doing the opening paragraph, 3 support paragraphs, and a closing paragraph, which is like that basic formulaic style of writing. This is a little bit of fun. Next sentence says, feel free to mix and match these techniques or adapt them to fit your style. So have fun. It's not just one way that you can do things. Do everything. Mix and match these techniques. Or change them, adapt them, change them, shift them into a way that fits your style. And then in the last thing, we have a recommendation or, a call to the readers out there, directly talking to the readers. So seize a notebook, pick up that pen and start experimenting, right? Seize means to grab very quickly and hold on to something tightly. If you are somebody walking on the street and a police officer comes up to you and grabs you and doesn't let go of you, they have seized you. That's not a very fun thing. Here, you're seizing with a level of excitement or anticipation and excitement to be doing something new. You can pick up that pen as well, and you can start experimenting. Just start trying things out. It'll be all right. You'll find your method that works for you and fits your style. And last but not least, your self-discipline and academic success will flourish. So if you try some of these methods, if you adapt them to your style, it's going to help you. Not only are you going to, if you have attention deficit disorder yourself, if you have ADD, it might help your self-discipline. It might help you keep a little bit under control. If you're disciplined, you're kind of under control. You follow the rules. You do things when you need to do them, especially here when you're trying to take care of things that you need to finish in the day, or you handle studying, homework. You're being very disciplined if you sit down and you get the job done. You can also discipline somebody. If they've been bad, then you might discipline them by taking away their computer usage or take away their phone or not allow them to have dessert or something like that. But here we're talking about self-discipline, which means controlling yourself and getting yourself into a state of mind where you're able to get a job done, focus on it, and knock it out. And they're saying if you use these note styles, you'll probably flourish. You'll do really well. Not only will your self-discipline, your ability to handle things get better, will just get so much better, it'll flourish, but your academic success will flourish too, which means suddenly you'll just be so much better in your classes. You'll remember things faster. It'll be easier for you to study. It'll be easier for you to review. Sounds like a good thing to try. I don't know about you, Mike, but I would definitely give it a shot.
I'm going to go back to university right now just so I can do this.
You want to flourish.
I definitely do. No, it does. You're right. And in the same way that you might be able to organize your history notes in university and remember which king ruled which country at which time, later on in your life, you might find yourself still using Cornell notes to try to remember which daughter has soccer class and which daughter is going to ballet class and what shoes they need to take with them. because, of course, being organized at different times of your life in different ways for different reasons is always, always very important and useful.
All right, guys, we're done for today, but our Chinese teacher isn't. So let's just take a minute and listen to our Chinese teacher one more time.
好，如同呢前一天课程，其实作者引导我们到底要怎么样去做这个子弹笔记法。那在这里呢，我们也了解了康奈尔笔记法原来要这么做，要分成3大块。那到底这一套笔记法有哪些好处呢？第3段就说得很清楚了。Such as encouraging active listening during lectures. 所以康奈尔笔记法的笔记的人呢，他要主动聆听 active listening 其实就是主动聆听。那再来第2个句子，请同学特别注意的就是我们的主要动词 facilitate。那这 Q column and summary section， Q column 指的当然就是左边就是有关键字有问题的这个栏位。那 summary section 当然就是最底下的这个栏位，它们有什么作用啊？ Facilitate 其实就是 make easy， 就是让什么事情变得比较简单的意思。其实就是我们中文常常讲的有助于。那这样子的栏位，这2个栏位呢，可以让我们很快有效率的去做复习。那请同学看到这个句子最后面的这个动词 revisit the material， 可以帮助我们回顾复习相关的材料。 revisit 所指的就是回顾复习。再来请同学看到第3个句子。好，为什么要去做摘要啊？下面这个栏位是做摘要的，有一个功能 It aids in understanding and retaining knowledge， 因为它有助于去做摘要的时候，有助于我们理解上课的内容，而且也可以让我们记得住留得住 retain 就是留得住，可以记住我们所吸收的这些知识。好，再来我们看到第4段咯。那第4段这边提到，好 Remember the best note-taking method is the one that works for you。 这个 one 指的当然就是 note-taking method， 因为同类嘛，所以呢代替的时候呢我们就用 one， 这是用来指同一类的。那最好的笔记方法就是对你有效的方法 that works for you， 所以我们要找出适合自己的。因此第2个句子告诉我们说 feel free to mix and match these techniques。 以上所教的这2套你可以呢混合着去使用， or adapt them to fit your style， 甚至于要调整做一些改变也可以 adapt， 那当然就是稍微做一些转化，做一些稍微调整的改变， you can adapt them。 要干嘛呢？ fit your style， 让这一套笔记的方法呢符合你的个人风格。好，那最后呢我们看到第4个句子 Your self-discipline and academic success will flourish。 请大家掌握好笔记的诀窍，好好的做笔记。这么做有什么好处啊？最后会有什么结果呢？你的自律 Your self-discipline， 还有呢你在学校的功课 will flourish。 flourish 是一个相当正面的动词，就表示呢未来你的学业上面呢会看到它开花结果的。好，以上呢就是我们针对笔记学习法第2天课程内容所做的中文讲解。I'll see you next time.
Of the bullet journaling and the Cornell method, which one's your choice?
Cornell method.
Me too.
Because I tried the other one in university and I graduated, but I think I could have done better with the Cornell method.
Cornell method has a little bit of a lure for me. I think it sounds like a fun way to try to kind of facilitate my review. I'm going to give it a try. How about you guys? For English Digest, I'm Leah.
And I'm Mike.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.